that shifting close to how developers are working is super important. How do you see the definition of a CDE evolving in the following years?
Interesting. So I think the way I look at it is a lot of it comes down to not just the libraries. Like a lot of the virtualization and containerization story has been about encapsulating the raw level system dependencies. Now with like Coder, it's a lot easier to do stuff like add in the cloud-based dependencies like RDS or S3 or SQS to be part of your SKU. But as we see the advance into AI, I think you're going to see a lot more the software integrations that the software is going to be expected to do in production, more than just like I have an RDS instance, but what are all the other services? And I think that's where it starts to really become cloud-centric as opposed to laptop, because your laptop can't run all the services that your software is going to integrate with, and our software just keeps getting more complicated and more integrated to more subservices.
Yeah, it expands beyond an environment to an ecosystem.
Oh, that's a good way to say it. Yeah, I like that.
Cloud development ecosystem. Ben, I'd love your perspective on this one.
Yeah, I have heard the term a lot, developer infrastructure, and I think it depicts where we at Coder are trying to go, which is, as a developer, there's a lot more that you need, that you depend on kind of outside of what runs on your laptop to get your job done. Whether it's an S3 bucket, an API key, a permission, and we're seeing that automating the provisioning of a container is a mostly solved problem. You can do it on your laptop. You can do it in the cloud. It's fine. But what is more difficult is this web of dependencies that each developer, each team, each group needs. So I think the term ecosystem also nails it. There's this ecosystem of developer infrastructure that is in many ways a tangled mess of scripts and permissions and namespaces and secrets that shouldn't be there but are there and have been there for years. And I think that a good developer infrastructure platform aims to kind of tame that and create nice recipes for things beyond just provisioning a container. Because I don't think that a container's that hard to do anymore.
I think what you just said there resonated with me as far as like, I mentioned the shift left mentality. How do you bring production to development? But I kind of trivialized the overall point of development, which is that's where production starts. That's where the introduction of every new technology arrives. And the more that you can encapsulate that state in such a way that it is translatable later to productions is valuable too. So yeah, what you said resonates with me.
Yeah, it is definitely, we're seeing that because you want the developer experience goes beyond just the coding and development of the software. It also includes triaging and doing and debugging what's in production. And if the two are radically different, it becomes very difficult, a burden on the developer to suddenly fix this P0 bug, because now they have to go through all these hoops to kind of mimic production. But if production is really mimicking what happens in development, then you're fine.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So we spent a lot of time kind of talking about, the space at large. Now I'm really curious to hear about your respective stories, where you started before you went to a cloud developer environment, and your journey that led you where you are today, and then maybe where you're headed. Maybe we can.
Yeah, I've been doing developer productivity for about 16 years, it's been fascinating. I was in the center of Silicon Valley, experiencing, for me, it was the introduction to Vagrant and a lot of the, how do I get the virtual machine over to my laptop, and watching the journey as, I remember meeting with Hashimoto and him pitching some of the first early versions of Vagrant and how that worked. We were all excited, but we were struggling with all the ecosystem around how do you get images to all get updated and be defined. And then Hashimoto goes off and starts to create Terraform and its ability to more spec out the environment between staging and prod, but then starting to get Packer and the introduction to your images are now defined. Then there was the rise and fall, but there was the rise of Docker, and it was mind-blowing at the time, but it was dev only. You would never put this in production. All these developers upset about it. And then that evolution started to become, well, of course, everything's going to be Dockerized. And that became normal. And it's it's been this interesting journey watching all this kind of play out, and each introduction of a new tool has just made it more and more possible to encapsulate what you do deploy in production into these other spaces. So yeah, it feels like it's been a very long journey on its way to go from the infancy of like the first version of Vagrant all the way to, coder and cloud-based development environments and, those types of helpers.
My journey started on Commodore 64. I jest, partly. No. So for our journey, especially into the cloud-based environments and that sort of thing, started mostly with not so much as a foresight, but almost as a, like, oh my gosh, we have this existing technology that we realize isn't working anymore. And we have a large cluster that through a turn of events ended up becoming overloaded, and that no one really could foresaw the dominoes that fell to cause this. And we realized that if we really want to give developers an environment where they can work and not overburden us on how to support them, we need something that's repeatable. And like you said, it's a solved problem, so we just needed to find the solution that solved the problem the best. And so that our journey kind of came about that way. It wasn't. I didn't have the luck of the pedigree of like knowing all the ins and outs of all the different technologies coming directly into it or leading up to it. But once we landed on it, we realized that the only way we're going to give developers that sort of system that is, removes the barrier or the distinctions from dev and CI, or that makes it easier for developers to recreate what is in production, was going to be with something that we can easily spin up in the cloud. It's much easier to do that than get someone on an M2 or a Mac laptop to recreate, a Kubernetes stack. So that really is where we kind of came in at.
I think some of my background was deeply rooted in anger and frustration with the number of desk sides with a developer who's like, well, it doesn't work on my machine and it's your job to help me figure it out. And you're like, all right, let's go. Yeah. Let's go check out some config files.
That's the number one complaint is like, it worked, but it works on my laptop. Why is it failing in CI? Why are the unit tests failing there?
Yeah.
And
well, for the longest time, the delta between those was very legitimate, and they would be subtle. They would be like different architectures, and could be different, environment variables, and you just wouldn't quite catch it. And you had to know so much about the system to be a developer productivity professional to actually support all these engineers, because everyone just expected you to understand how their product executed on top of everything else that like. I definitely think some of the CDE movement is being pushed by developer productivity professionals because we see this world of like, if I can give that to you. Maybe some of this goes back to some of the early CI environments like Circle CI and Travis CI that started to really push that like repo-centric Docker containers for defining the dependencies that your project needed. It started to really show the light at the time of like, what if everyone could bring their own dependencies with them? And I know that was an eye-opener for me to be like, wait, this could be not my problem anymore. Yeah. Okay, I'm into that.
Yeah. Oh, and we had ours with the developer productivity, and for us, it was a dev owns quality sort of initiative to kind of really get our developers to own the quality that they were producing. And we discovered that the only way they could really run any of the functional tests and unit tests was in CI. So CI stopped being an actual integration tool and actually was part of the development environment. And that it was a 3-hour, essentially it was like a 3 to 4 hour cycle. So if you submitted an MR, if you wanted to know if the functional test would run, it would take 3 hours to let you know. And because of that, there was no way that the developers could run any of this locally.
Yeah.
CI became it was a self-feeding loop where CI was complex, so we'll put all the complicated stuff there. And then it was, well, we can only run the complicated stuff there. And things just kept being more complex and complicated with our testing suites. So by moving it left, by shifting it left, we can bring all that to the developer now. So our cycle times, our velocity is much greater because we can focus on that and not, we're not using CI as a development tool. We're using the CDE as the development tool. And CI now just does what CI is supposed to do.
Yeah, one of the main use cases we've seen for Coder is what you mentioned around a really complex and frustrating dev loop where you're pushing the CI, praying basically, and that's the only way that you're able to get feedback on what you're working on, whether it's deploying an application to preview it or running like integration tests or functional tests. And I think cloud environments is a great place to run complex systems because you don't have to deal with a lot of external variables like home network connections or different operating systems or permissions on your desktop. So a lot of that gets offloaded through some of the stuff that the Terraform team figured out pretty early around like declarative infrastructure. And every developer has in their environment the same operating system and the same image and the same network policies. And I think it just makes a ton of sense to in complex systems at least provision them in a declarative, in an ephemeral way.
One of the things that I think changed a lot was the advent of 10 years ago, who would have thought the video game card company that was making the card I went home to play video games with would actually become such a staple of how you do modern compute and modern technology. And it's been interesting because there's so much more developers that are coding against the specific GPU. And we've just given up on, for good reasons, we've given up on the Mac having the exact same drivers and the same architecture and the same everything. And we just said, like, that's not reasonable anymore and it's not a good idea. And I've just seen a lot more development tooling that is like, no, it matters what CUDA driver I'm on, what driver I'm on. It matters what OS I'm on. All this stuff matters, and making the abstraction isn't worth it. So it's probably like this pendulum back and forth probably throughout time where it's turned into like, now they're coding in very specific environments in the cloud and it's not on their laptop anymore. It's just been, it's been such it's been such a rapid change over the past like 4 years, right?
Yeah. And it also gives you the opportunity by being in the cloud to do some of the same things and processes that can happen in CI. You can have access to, like in our CI, we have access to testing clusters, which Mac, developer laptops don't, but we can give them that in the CDE. We can control the controls and things that are in place in the cloud environments. We can replicate into their environment as well, which we may not be able to replicate as easily to the laptops. So it's also opened up what the developers can actually do, and how we can get everything to really across the SDLC become more homogeneous as far as the processes and things we're looking at. And it's not a completely different landscape between, the developer and production. So
I think the other, for me, so I have a very strong SRE background. So I've done a near infinite amount of 2 a.m. outages and things like that. And I subscribed really early into the DevOps movement, and not DevOps the cheesy way, but DevOps like Phoenix project stuff. The people who created the idea of the shift left mentality and the idea of capturing everything as code, and this idea of a lot of it, the pets and cattle metaphor. And so I came from this SRE world and this Kubernetes world where it was like, okay, well, I have a container and it's like, my container crashed. I'm like, I don't care. There's 100,000 of you in this. Like, we'll make another one. It's fine. And then on the side was this developer productivity lead where I'd have this one person's desktop they've been using for 3 years. It's got 3 years worth of junk on it. It's gone through 3 different operating system upgrades. And they're like, well, now it's not working on my computer. And in my mind, I'm like, everything about this upsets me because in a cloud world, you just dump it in the ocean and you get another one. Like, why? It just didn't feel right to support people. So the other key distinction with a cloud development environment is specifically the ability to make them ephemeral and reset them, which is truly unique compared to development experience, at least from my perspective. Development experience has been for a long time. I remember going over to Facebook's offices back in 2015 or so, and they were talking about how each developer, I could have my timing wrong, but each developer had their own server and they could just provision them a whole new server and they connected over. And it wasn't quite CDEs as we think about them today, but it was it blew my mind at the time, the idea that, like, wait a second, my computer doesn't have to be my laptop. And maybe I'm naive in 2015 for just kind of experiencing that. But I was like, but that was really eye-opening for me to see where ephemeral and development environments would eventually go.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of ephemeral, that was one of the biggest hurdles we had to deal with. We have seasoned developers who had been on their infrastructure they have their TMUX sessions set up just right, or they have the various flavors of tool, Emacs, et cetera, that they needed to have in place. And when we were proposing a cloud, obviously it's a cloud development environment, it's supposed to be ephemeral, and that just broke their brain. I mean,
No thanks.
You mean you want to blow this away every day and rebuild it? So coming up, but Coder specifically with combination of dot files and other things, we're able to give them, we call it persistent ephemerality, where to them, they feel like it's the same, but we are really blowing everything away and rebuilding things and attaching things back on so that they get their environment back while getting all the stuff updated so we don't get vulnerability tickets assigned to us all the time. So,
I don't know if you've all had some experience, but I found fascinating is developers, the people who are professionals in source controlling their code, and asking them, what about source controlling your .vimrc or your dot files? And I go, that's too much effort.
Oh, yeah, dot files, yeah.
I expect you to back up my whole disk.
Right.
Like, why don't you source control the things that you need? Yeah. And it's been fascinating that's sometimes the biggest pushback I've gotten is people not wanting to spend that. And I'm like, but this is actually what you do.
Yeah, the number of questions we had on what are dot files from Linux developers.
Yes, exactly. Very well said.
Yeah, it's like, okay. But I think that's all that's a learning thing. It's all about you get used to the environment you have, and in the transition, once someone gets familiar with the environment, then they adapt to it. They will adapt.